I'm playing people in tennis that are like maybe early 30s, and so their endurance is good, but I'm keeping up because I really like that idea of like keep pushing yourself because it's unless you're pushing yourself too far, like you said, where you're either fatigued or you're just doing something you shouldn't be doing. Because the last thing it sounds like, at least from what I read about you and what you've been saying in this chat, is that injury is what you really want to prevent. If you're not injured, then you can keep improving and all these things. Is that really what you focus with on your clients, like injury prevention as you kind of scale up ability?
Yeah, it's with anybody. I tell if I'm working with a high school team, I tell you my number one goal, I should actually say my number two goal is improving your performance in the game. My
Okay.
number one goal is you got to be in the game. No one's ever scored a touchdown. No one's ever hit a home run. No one's ever,
From the bench.
got a basket from the training room. And so I got to keep you out there. Now, look, things happen. I can't prevent injuries. Things are going to happen. You
Right.
could, a bunch of different things can happen in a sport, especially the level of contact that's in it. You could be in soccer and someone steps on your ankle, you get knocked around. The guy I just told you about earlier, who's in his 40s, who's a soccer player, he has to make some pains, but you take a couple elbows to the ribs, you take a kick slide to the shin. Those things are going to happen. That's kind of life. Those things happen, but it's really the building up the durability of to say, I'm not going to let my own body get in the way. Um, Being the case, and that it's kind of going through this methodical approach of making sure you can move well first, and then you can move actually with intent. And so the only disadvantage you're going to have against those 30-year-olds is they have their nervous system is a little more ramped up. Okay, they didn't lose that speed and power yet. That's why most athletes will retire in their 30s, 40s because they can't generate the same power unless they can figure out a way to be crafty and know the sport better. So that's why the biggest thing I encourage for people over 40 is to train speed and power.
Hmm.
Smart, but train speed and power. And then, so if you can develop all those attributes and stay within your lanes, you're going to have a pretty good case to keep yourself healthy, provided you don't slip or fall or get knocked into or any of those types of things.
Okay, so I guess one selfish question: if how would I train speed and power for tennis, for example? Because in it, I thought like just doing it and playing people that have a good fitness level would train my speed because they're hitting me all over the court. I've got to accelerate. I've got to slow down. I've got to do that. And in the gym, like I, yeah, how would you prescribe training for speed and power for a sport for any racket sport? I guess.
Okay, so there's a couple components to that. One is you can only accelerate as well as you can decelerate. I'm only going to put enough horsepower in that vehicle to that I have the brakes that can handle it. And so the most important thing, and this also carries over into your injury prevention, is the biggest thing we train first is your brakes, your ability to decelerate. And so those are simple things like being able to do, your hopping from an athletic stance on one leg to an athletic stance and on the other leg, and being able to stick and own that without wobbling or falling and those sorts of things,
Okay.
and being able to do it in a controlled manner and doing it in a bunch of different directions. So that would be one thing, is different ways we would train your deceleration, your ability to put on your brakes. The second aspect I would look at would be from the most low hanging fruit is looking at the tempo of your repetitions. It's something that most people don't look at. If I prescribe an exercise to you on my app, you'll see that there's little numbers that say EPCP on there, and that's just fancy for eccentric pause, concentric pause, meaning how long I want you to take to lower it, how long that pause should be, how long it should take to lift it, and how long the pause should be again. And so the easiest way to start introducing some of that work is, let's say you're doing, everybody knows a bench press is pretty common. So if I just lowered it down 4, 3, 2, 1, pause for a second, and then went up as fast as I can, pause for a second. So that way I know I have control. I'm not out of control. I'm pausing on either end, and
Mm.
then control it down slow again. That's a simple way to start introducing a little bit of getting your nervous system to learn how to move fast. And then from there, if I get really good in those constraints, I might want to get a little more adventurous, provided you have the movement ability and capacity to maybe start doing a little bit of jumping or sprinting. Or if you have access to medicine balls, we can start to do some different medicine ball drills. Or if you have
Okay.
kettlebells and you can learn things like a kettlebell swing, those are ways we can start incorporating power and speed into your nervous system. So you just get to learn what it feels like to not just move from point A to point B, but move with intent And then we can get super fancy where I even have equipment where we can measure your intent. We can measure the speed of the bar or measure the speed of your movement. And now you have a meter in front of you that says you just moved at, zero point 0.8 meters per second. I want you to try to beat that on the next rep. And so we can, start at the most simple level and work all the way up to complex.